Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Armando, that's Corey, and today we're doing 1979's Being There.
I wish I wasn't.
Well, before we get started, if you want to reach out to me or Corey on Twitter or X or whatever, you can reach out to me at Junior D's. You can reach out to Corey at Corey_idol. And if you want to follow the show, you could follow us on Twitter X, Instagram, TikTok at Kiss the Reviews. Let's get into the cast of 1979's Being There. This film stars Shirley MacLaine as Eve Rand, Peter Sellers as Chance, and Melvyn Douglas as Benjamin Rand. I don't know who requested this, or how long ago it was requested, because we're backlogged a bit. But I've never seen this movie. No. I was a little upset with the fact that I had to rent this movie. However, I believe it was 94 cents on Amazon. Hey, Amazon, just make it free.
Florida Amazon must have different pricing, because this was like $4 or $5 for me to rent. I was like, Jesus Christ.
When I rented it, it had like $3.99 and then it was crossed out and then it said 94 cents. I was like, oh, they're having a fire sale on bad movies.
Is it possible this story is true? Yes, it is.
Without giving too much of the plot away, I say we just dive right into this one. What do you say? So this movie begins with Chance, who is a gardener who lives in this townhouse of a rich dude in downtown DC or something. And he wakes up to start his day. And immediately to the start of this movie, I already have a don't do that, along with many PSAs that we'll probably do throughout the review. But here's one. And I know this was 1975, but
don't do that, it's not good for you.
Hi, everybody, especially guys, don't wear full matching pajamas. I want to know when this stopped becoming a thing. Like, when you were a kid, you had your Superman pajamas or whatever, and then, like, you saw on TV growing up that, like, I don't know, the Brady Bunch or whatever, where you had, like, the full button-up top and the matching slacks type pajamas. Like, so I don't know if it's like you're a kid and you're like, oh, well, I have Superman ones now, and then when I get older, I get to wear, like, a suit to bed. When did that stop becoming a thing? Because by the time I was, like, I don't know, 12, I was literally just wearing a t-shirt and, like, basketball shorts to bed.
Yeah, here's a good tip on top of the don't do that, I guess, a PSA.
Corey's Life Lessons.
Hi guys, Uncle Corey here. Sleep attire needs to be ready to go in case of an emergency, right? Because typically, as guys, we're the last ones out of the house. We got to clear the house out of the family, whoever's there, dogs, fucking animals, yada yada. We're expendable, get everything else out. So with that being said, or if somebody is coming into your house, which is the best example of this, somebody's coming into your house uninvited to steal your shit or to hurt your family, you got to be ready to rock and roll. Which is why I wear a fucking halter top and nothing else. Because I can look at them from my bedroom door down the hallway, kind of coming up the stairs, and they're just going to see me going boo with my fucking dick swinging. I am going to terrify them.
Hell yes.
At the end of the day, when you wake up, whether it's from somebody breaking into your house or just to start breakfast, don't look like you're getting ready to go into, like, the New York Stock Exchange. Just, that's not a good look.
And keep your dick out.
That's fair. That's fair. So we continue on with this movie, and Chance pretty much has no contact with the outside world. He tends to the garden, and his view of the world is gathered from what he sees on TV, because that's all the interaction he has besides the maid that works in the townhouse too. Her name is Louise, and she's literally the only other person he knows and interacts with.
Yeah, and It doesn't seem like it's the greatest relationship because, spoiler alert, the old man that they both work for or are imprisoned by dies. And Louise acts like it's the first day she ever met him. Because she's like, you don't care about nothing, do you? Because he doesn't react to anything.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, you have the mind of a child. Yeah, like he did yesterday. And ever since you fucking met him. Why is this a shock to you?
I have a question here. So apparently how the story goes is this dude was just dropped off on this rich old man's doorstep as a baby. And he takes him in. And instead, and this couldn't be more appropriate for like rich old white men, but instead of taking him in and going, oh my God, there's a baby here, and either finding him a home or taking him in and like raising him as his own, he takes the baby in and raises him to be a gardener. He raises this baby to be an indentured servant. And I mean, outside of meals and buying him like TVs for every room, he doesn't pay him anything. Because when he leaves the house here, because you have the attorneys come and they're like, yeah, cool story, bro. You're the gardener and you sound like a 3-year-old speaking. Get the fuck out of the house because this estate's gone.
Yeah, the old man's basically treating this poor little autistic kid like it's his rosebud. Like, you need to... Like, this is not the way to go about life, regardless of the mental state of who gets dropped off at your door.
For serious.
Everybody knows it's based on race.
Play the game everybody else is playing, people. That's all Corey's saying.
It's so not cool to take advantage of autistic people like this anymore. Different colored kids, though, showing up on your door, or at the firehouse. Or
apparently that's fair.
That's fine.
That's all fair game, apparently. So after they get the visit from the attorney and Chance is thrown out on his ass, he walks out of the townhouse, which up until this point of the movie, you're like, oh, old rich man, lives in DC. When you see him walk out, he walks out into like the hood. Like this was the last dude that didn't sell his townhouse in this neighborhood that just went to hell. Here's the other thing, because throughout this movie, he sees black people and he's like, oh my God, it's a black person. Much like his speech in this movie. You've watched all this TV. You've talked to Louise, who is also black. There were black people on TV in the 70s. They weren't everywhere, but they were on TV. Why is this? And you've interacted with Louise face to face. He looks at them like they're from fucking Mars.
You were right.
His racism in the 1970s more should have been like asking every other black person, do you know Louise? Because you thought everybody knows everybody else. That's how they did it back then.
Absolutely. So after, walking through the hood, he walks by a television store. He sees his own picture in one of the TVs, and it's recorded by like the little camera in the shop window. And as he watches himself, he backs into the street and gets pinned between two cars by a limo owned by Ben Rand. And I got a couple of questions here because he gets like pinned, and I don't know if he breaks his leg or what happens here, but the dude comes out and says he's a very careful driver. Yeah, he seems super careful because not only did he not see you walk between the two cars, if you wouldn't have been there, he would have fucking rear-ended or hit the front end of the car behind him because he was trying to like back up to get out. You're not a careful driver because you would have fucking dented the whole front end, especially back then. Everything was metal. That shit would have just bent right in, and there's no fixing that.
And that's the thing. Back in the 70s, If you were a white guy and ran over somebody, you were allowed to just say, I'm a very careful driver. And they went, okay, then that's your business, son.
And Eve here, like, and I get it. Like, he's dressed in the old man's clothes that were like, he literally looks like he should be flipping a quarter and walking around like, yeah, see? Like, and it's 1979, but he's got like all these really nice clothes on. So they immediately think that he's like a rich dude who just happened to be watching himself in the TV of the TV store and backed into traffic.
Yes, they thought it was more likely that there was nothing necessarily wrong with him.
Yes.
But that he was a rich man who didn't know what TV was and was just coming in his pants over the fact that he saw himself on television.
Yes.
That was the more plausible thing. And this is a good lesson about rich people, I think, here, kids. When rich people get something in their brain parts, they don't have friends like Armando or I that are going to be like, no, that's a stupid fucking idea. What are you talking about? All of their friends, because they want their money and to be around that money and that excess, all they say is, yeah, that's exactly what happened. He'd never seen a TV before. Way to go. He's basically Nia Long's character from Love Jones. That's who he is.
Well,
that's who friends of rich people are. So
I have a question here because they back into him. He's like, "Ooh, ouch! I can't walk." Or however he talks here, he's like, "Oh, me no walkie, leggy hurty," or whatever he says. And Eve says, "Hey, come into our limo." And the guy's like, "Oh, do you want to take him to the hospital?" She's like, "No, we got doctors at the house." If you think that this guy's rich, why would you take him back to your house to see that he's got enough money, and I'm assuming health insurance, to go see a doctor and get fixed up, right? But whatever, neither here nor there. He gets in the limo. They're riding along. She offers him some alcohol, which he's never drank alcohol before. So he drinks it. He starts coughing when she asks his name.
This is vital, I think, for public safety. Like a true public safety announcement.
Corey's life lessons.
Hi. Pores. Uncle Corey here. If a rich person invites you, no matter what they've done, to get in their limo, to take some alcohol, to do some shit like that, the only hope you have to get out of there is just to give them access to your booty hole or kidney, because those are the two things they're thinking that night. Don't ever get into the limo of a rich person, no matter what happens. You are either getting full of stitches or full of white soup.
Yes.
That's it.
White soup. He drinks the alcohol, he starts coughing, and she asks him his name, right? And he says, Chance the Gardener. But she hears Chauncey Gardener. So now he's Chauncey Gardner for the rest of the movie. And he goes to their house, the doctor, because Eve's husband is 400 years old and she's like, I don't know, 35. So
what is it with some of these movies? It totally tracks. But what is it with some of these movies where, like, the main problem here is curable by new blood? What is happening? Is this like a special episode of the Golden Girls where Sam got the bad blood and now he's got AIDS?
Say my blood's gone bad on me. I'm buying it by the case, like champagne.
This is where QAnon got the whole idea of like liberals like eat fetuses for the blood. It's back then because it seemed like in a lot of movies it was like, my blood's gone bad, so I need like new blood because that's how I live forever. So,
dude, can we just address this? Because I'm fucking so sick and tired of this. Don't knock it until you tried it. Fetuses taste fucking fantastic.
Listen, everything tastes fantastic if you put a little hot sauce on it.
Dude, hot sauce, a little butter in the frying pan. Oh, shit.
So Chauncey now stays there, and during dinner at Rand's home, he tells them about the attorneys shutting down his house after the old man died. Ben Rand assumes that Chauncey means that his business was shut down by kid attorneys from the SEC. And they take his mention of working in Ben's garden and any gardening sayings that he has as wisdom and business talk. And with that, Ben takes Chance under his wing. And like now, you're going to work with me because the old man died and the business got taken away from the kid attorneys from the SEC. And he starts bitching about the SEC. And
I think this is another good lesson here for a lot of people in this world. Mainly hyper-politicized Americans. And this is for the left and the right, so fuck both of you. When someone says something like a politician, don't read into what they're saying to make it fit what you want them to be saying because you want them to be the person you like. When someone tells you who the fuck they are, believe them. That's it. When somebody tells you they're incredibly intelligent for scamming the government, that doesn't mean like, oh, that guy's is fucking incredibly genius and he knows math and science. No, he doesn't. He knows how to evade taxes. So when somebody tells you they're a gardener, guess what? They're a fucking gardener. They're not dropping metaphors.
To piggyback off of you, if you've ever wondered, and for anybody that wants to watch this movie that has ever wondered how like the Bernie Madoffs of the world steal all of these rich, smart people's money, watch this movie because this is how rich people get taken advantage of. They don't know any better. They're not really, unless they're like scientists, you know what I mean? Like they're creating shit. Most of these rich people aren't really any smarter than you or me or anybody else out there. They are very easily can be taken advantage of. And this is how you do it. You talk in, and obviously Chance's character here is too stupid or dim to realize what he's doing. But if you're smart enough to realize it, you could do this too. Just just be vague and talk in gardening terms. Just take the script out of this movie and talk like this guy. And pretty soon, the old rich guy that befriends you will die, and then you get to marry like his hot young wife, and then now you're rich. And everything's in the will is left to you. So Ben, who is an advisor of the U.S. president, introduces Chauncey to the president, and Chauncey talks about how the garden changes with the seasons, and the president takes that as economic and political advice. And Chance, as now Chauncey, quickly becomes a media celebrity. He appears on national talk shows. This is all after being mentioned by the president in his speech. And again, this is like a lot of these people aren't smarter than the normal, average, everyday person. He literally talked gardening with a dope and then took that and put it in a speech. And not only just used his words like, I get it if somebody says something and you're like, oh, dude, that's really good. I could use that. You could take those things and put it in your speech, and that's all well and good. This son of a bitch quoted him in his speech 4 hours after meeting him for the very first time.
I don't even know what to say about this. Like, I think this is kind of a peek behind the curtain for the rich and powerful, though, because like Armando said, if you speak in vague metaphors and similes and analogies, you're going to have a lot of people put into that whatever they want to think. Like we said about how the rich think anyway. The most important thing to the rich isn't really making more money, because they got more money that they're never going to fucking lose it. What they fucking hate is being wrong. That's 100%. How Bernie Madoff succeeds, like Armando was saying. I cannot be wrong. I invested in this guy. And even though I'm pretty sure he's taking more money from me, I got to invest other people in this too. Because if I'm going to look like a fool, everybody's going to look like a fool. Like, remember in South Park where the kid like shit his pants at school and was on Schmuicide watch?
Yes.
So Cartman made everybody shit their pants in school so nobody could be made. That's what this is.
100%. 100%.
That's how a pyramid scheme really works.
Yeah.
And so if you do meet a politician, I highly suggest just use metaphors and they're going to think you're fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And here, no one can find any information on this Chauncey Gardner character. Even though they're doing deep dives into his past, the FBI's looking into it for the president. You have these like news networks that are looking into it. And before the talk show that he goes on, Rand's doctor even has someone snag Chauncey's fingerprints to find out who he is. And Louise sees him on TV and literally gives the best review of this film. I couldn't review this film better than she does. She literally just says,
"Shortchanged by the Lord and dumb as a jackass. All you gotta be is white in America to get whatever you want."
She literally says that boy cannot read or write.
Yeah.
That's the first time we find out he cannot read or write.
And she's just like, that's what it is being white in America. Now he's on TV. Our review of this film should just be Louise's clip, and then that's it. An explosion, Louise's clip, and then another explosion.
And then a picture of RFK Jr. at a press conference.
Rand here then hooks up Chauncey and Eve because he's old and things. And Eve is quite a bit younger than him. And then Eve starts like getting into Chauncey and she kisses him soon thereafter. And normally in this type of scene, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure he came in his pants. He literally has no reaction. And this is the problem that I have. Okay? And I'm not in the business of quoting Joe Rogan or other people. Like, however.
But I am in the business of coming in my pants.
But Joe has this bit back in the day. I am in that business.
Okay.
But he has this bit back in the day where it's like, listen, we're all just animals. Like, it's in our DNA, and we have things inside of us that like you can't take away, even if you're just like put in a cave like this guy is for his whole life. Okay. He still has a penis. Like, he still has sex drive. Just because you lock somebody in a room doesn't mean that they don't have that. They might not recognize it. They might not whatever, but she's not unattractive. She's an attractive woman who like kisses him here. Like, I'm pretty sure he'd just be like, ugh! Like, I'm exploding in my pants and I don't know what to do, but this needs to go somewhere. But he has zero. He doesn't even acknowledge it.
No, not a bit. No reaction whatsoever. And I'm with, like, honestly, maybe he's gay.
Well, no, not really, because he has the conversation with the one guy who asks him if he's gay. And he was just like, well, I don't even know if he knows what gay is. Again, if he's watching TV in the 70s, that was still on TV. You know what that is.
You were right.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with his obsession with TV. He likes to watch. That's all he would know. That is probably more of a turn on to him than actually getting kissed, is actually watching.
Yeah.
Which I think at the end, if you don't mind me jumping ahead, spoiler alert.
Go right ahead.
Made in 1979. That's why when she's masturbating, I think he stands on his head because he's trying to get the blood to flow back down to where it needs to be. He's like, uh-oh, that's going to the wrong place.
And then, like, after this, again, she jumps on him while he's eating breakfast and watching Mr. Rogers and whatever. Listen, we've watched movies where there's like hot, heavy sex scenes, and you're like, whew. Like, if there's not a more boner killer scene than this scene where she's like on him and he's just like, guy, Mr. Rogers is on TV. He has a boner watching Mr. Rogers because he's like, hell yeah, be nice to your neighbor. This is how you put your fucking slippers on and shit. I'm going to take my fucking jacket off, my sweater off, and hang it up in the goddamn closet. Like, I'm good to go. This is boner time for him, and she's just a boner killer for him.
Oh my God. Well, given 1970s fucking bushes, you should just put on that dick sweater, son. Get some. God damn. No, you're right. Like, and this should be kind of a lesson, I think, regardless. Like, I understand if you're lonely. I really do. And I've been lonely, and I've fucked some not great ones. But you should never get so lonely when you're like, oh, this grown man is eating breakfast in his matching pajama set, watching Mr. Rogers. That should be like the sump pump installed in your puss. Like, that should just take all of it out, and that shit turns into a fucking desert.
Well,
because there's no way that is a turn on to you. Who the fuck does that?
That's my question. Okay? Like, maybe not some of these people, maybe not Rand and the president and whatever, because they're not in that situation where he's just like constantly looking for the TV or whatever the hell. They're actually having conversations or attempting to have conversations with them. Like, at what point does Shirley MacLaine's character go, oh my God, he's a child? Like, she's in it to win it all the way through the end. And at no point while he's eating bacon and watching Mr. Like, what person over, I don't know, let's just say you're childlike. What person over 20 is watching Mr. Rogers with any sort of like concentration on the show? Okay? Like, that shouldn't be a thing. This dude's like 45. And, well, I think he's 45. And like, he's probably 25 from 1979 standards, because everybody looked about 30 years older than they actually were. But what adult is like doing these things? Like, she should know, like, I'm basically trying to touch a man-child right now.
Yeah, this is, in all honesty, like, once you put it all into perspective and you can put a name on it like we have now, this is the most egregious female to male sexual assault since Jenny took advantage of Forrest Gump.
I'm right there with you. Absolutely. So now, like, she's taking him to like these events, these like very upscale events, and people are wanting to know more about him and yada yada. So they're talking more. And the doctor here, Rand's doctor, finally figures out that, like, oh, he's a like an actual gardener. And he goes to talk to Rand about Chauncey, but he's hesitant to say anything because how Rand feels about him now. And he doesn't say anything to Ben here because, like, I don't know, maybe he feels bad. And Ben basically says, like, I'm adding him to my will.
Yeah, and this is weird too. So the doctor comes in wicked late, and this is a good lesson about doctors too. They feel just like the rich. They don't want to ever be wrong either.
Yes.
So he comes into the picture late, realizes again, he talks to Peter Sellers' character and finds out, like, Peter Sellers, I think also what helps him along here is his character doesn't lie. Like, are you really a gardener? Yes, I'm the gardener.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just who the fuck he is.
Yep.
And finally it's like, oh shit. And again, this is where the doctor to me is a little weird because doctors are scientists. And so they deal in stuff like facts.
Yes.
And then, so he goes to talk to Ben and tell him the truth. And Ben's like, oh, he makes me feel younger and I feel alive. And he's like, being the doctor, yes, feelings are saving this man's life. Forget all about it. Let him just take this money and do whatever the fuck he wants with it. Yeah. And I'm going to entrust your wife with him because this childlike creature actually is like, yes, I do love her very much. Great. You can't feed yourself. You're still looking for a guy named what, Raphael? To tell him that he's some jive-ass turkey? So get the fuck out of here with me entrusting you with my empire and my wife when I die.
Well, and after this whole like Doctor and Ben Rand scene, we get the awkward kissing scene between Eve and Chauncey and the I like to watch, where we basically see Shirley MacLaine play with herself as Chauncey watches TV and, I don't know, does yoga. And then on his deathbed, Chauncey goes to see Rand. Rand tells him that he wants him to stay there and be with Eve. Rand then dies. And at his funeral, the president gives a long speech with quotes by Rand. And Rand's pallbearers, as they are going to like put him in the mausoleum, whisper about potential replacements for the president in the next term. And they all finally agree on Chauncey Gardner.
So what we said before, like, you know, like you speak in metaphors and weird analogies and platitudes and you be vague. Listen to the quotes the president is giving here from this guy. Like, don't run into a brick wall, but don't run halfway or you'll smash your face. It's just like stupid fucking bullshit.
Dude, it's like those posters people put in their offices with like the cat hanging on the rope. And
yeah, for real. Like, hang on one more day, it gets better.
If you don't make it, it's your own damn fault. That's a bitch slap of truth right there.
No, it's all those quotes are exactly like that. And it continues those quotes through the end because it cuts away because Chance, oblivious to all of this, wanders away from the funeral through the snowy woods on Rand's estate, and he straightens out like a pine sapling, and then he walks to the edge of a pond. He then continues to walk further out onto the pond on the surface of the water, like Jesus, and dips his umbrella into the water so you could see that like he's on the surface of the water and he's not falling in, whatever. And then the president's final quote from Rand is, "Life is a state of mind." And then the movie ends. I equate this movie to Seinfeld. This was a movie about nothing.
Yeah, this isn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
No,
but it's by
not.
Far and away the most boring movie I've ever seen.
Yes.
I was struggling to finish this fucking thing.
Listen, I mean, the actors all did a great job. There's some really Peter Sellers, Shirley MacLaine, like there's a lot of really good actors in this movie that know their craft and whatever. So from that standpoint, fine. But you're right, man. This movie, and whether it's movies or music, I've brought it up a couple times in the past, dynamics. You need dynamics in music, in a movie, where you're doing this. You're on a journey. Songs that literally stay here the whole time, or movies that stay here and they just plod along, are so boring because there's no undulation in the storyline and character arcs and anything like that. And those movies like this one where I'm literally looking at, and it's hard for me to not scream out, "You're all fucking stupid. Like, how do you not see this?" Those movies are infuriating to me more than anything because, like you said, they're boring.
Yeah, like if you're going to do satire, you just got to do it a little bit better. This is just, it's dry, it's boring.
Yes.
It's a fucking saltine cracker of a movie. There is no interest. And I mean, elephant in the room, the only comedy from this movie that's going to come, the reason this was a comedy back in the 70s is they didn't mind making fun of people with autism, because I don't think that's what they called it.
No, I don't know what they called it back then.
No, me either. But whatever they called it, they thought it was funny as fuck, apparently. Because they made a whole movie to make fun of it.
Well, they just thought you were dim.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
so watching it by today's standards and not even being like, progressive liberal politics, and just from the standpoint of a human being, there's nothing funny about, like, Forrest Gump's journey, you can say is funny. His journey isn't really funny. He just has no idea. He got so fucking lucky to get run over by a fucking limousine because he was wandering around asking people to make him lunch out of their grocery bags. And he hasn't drank water all day long.
I'll say this, for those people that like this movie, like, have seen this movie, but like this movie, for me saying, I don't like this movie, not for me, it's too boring, and there's other problems with the movie. It's not to say I like the subject matter. The rich, basically, this is a movie and a spoof on the rich being the dumb ones. Like, the joke is on the rich.
Yeah.
Like, so if you said that as a lead into this movie, I'd be like, dope, let me check that out. I'm all about shitting on the rich. Like, that's what I do weekly here. So, like, let's just do that. And then when I watched it, I just went, not my idea of a good movie that shits on the rich. So that's where I'll leave it. That's where I'll end it. I just, again, for 1979, fine. But for, like, today's standards, it definitely doesn't hold up. That's for damn sure.
No, like, there could be a million reasons why this doesn't hold up. But I would say this: if this is something that interests you, I challenge you to watch a movie like Idiocracy and tell me that this was better. Because they're basically the same fucking movie about the same subject matter, only it's treated very differently and not at the fucking expense of really anyone. It's more about a group of people.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's where you find the comedy. That's where you're allowed to lighten up a little bit more.
Yep.
So yeah, in my opinion, this was just, if this was a comedy, I thank Christ I was born when I was, and I grew up when I did, and saw the comedies I did, because this, to me, just, it's not funny. I maybe that's just the generational gap, but it was not funny to me.
No, it wasn't funny to me. It wasn't funny to me either.
No.
But that's all I got. You got anything else for this one?
Fuck no.
All right. Well, for Corey, I'm Armando. This is Kiss the Reviews, and this was 1979's Being There.